Hello everyone, my name is Ida Larsen-Ledet and I'm from Aarhus University in Denmark. I'm presenting the paper Collaborative Writing Across Multiple Artifact Ecologies, which is joint work with Henrik Korsgaard and Susanne Bødker, who are also both from Aarhus University. More precisely, what we've studied is academic collaborative writing taking place in universities. Academic collaborative writing has been studied from a number of angles, and some of the things we already know about it, both by personal experience and from research, is that negotiating the tools is a significant part of the work that goes into collaborative writing, since the tools in use can have a great impact on the writing process. We also know that planning and coordination are challenging aspects of the ongoing writing process. Communication plays a large role in this, but also just in addressing and discussing the text itself. Recent research, including ours, has also been studying how co-writers manage parts of the writing process being shared while others are not shared. Some of the previous research has noted the inclusion of multiple tools in academics' writing processes. What our study contributes is an examination of how writing through and across multiple tools or applications takes place. In our paper, we identify patterns of multi-application collaboration and motivations for transitioning between applications. We also extend previous taxonomies on collaborative writing with a categorization of the role of the text itself in the writing. Based on this, we discuss some challenges to the collaborative writing process. In this talk, I will focus on characterizing co-writers' motivations for transitioning between applications. And then I encourage you to have a look at our other findings in the paper. For this project, we interviewed 32 academic writers about particular recent writing projects they had been part of. The interviewees were master's students or researchers at a number of universities. The interviews spanned a total of 18 projects, with some overlap where a few participants had been part of multiple of the projects. The projects that participants described had lasted between 1 week and 2.5 years. We also conducted follow-up interviews with 14 participants. We asked participants about both practical and social aspects of the collaborations, such as strategies for text production and division of work, and approaches to editing text written by co-writers. Participants used several tools in their writing. Tools here used as an analogy for digital devices and applications, although the illustration in my slide shows tools in the more traditional sense. We've used the concept of artifact ecologies to frame participants' work in and across multiple tools. Now I'll briefly explain that concept and provide some examples of writing ecologies. The concept of artifact ecologies captures how people have and use sets of interactive artifacts, and how these sets or ecologies shape and are shaped by concrete practices such as collaborative writing. This is a quick hypothetical example of a personal artifact ecology. Google Docs for real-time joint editing, InDesign for layouting, an external hard drive for project data, Mendeley for reference management, and WhatsApp for quick communication. A hypothetical example of some overlapping artifact ecologies, where one co-writer in the bottom right is creating illustrations in OmniGraffle while keeping in touch with collaborators on WhatsApp. Another co-writer on the left is managing their notes on Google Drive and maintaining an overview of shared files through a cloud storage service. And the third co-writer in the top right is finalizing the layout in Overleaf and reading the paper reviews in Outlook. As this illustrates, the artifact ecologies that co-writers work in are a combination of the personal ecologies that they bring with them into the collaboration and the aligned ecology of tools that co-writers negotiate at the start of and throughout the work, as well as whatever tools happen to be available in certain situations. This figure illustrates overlaps between aligned and personal artifact ecologies in a simplified generic form. As we've depicted, the activities carried out by co-writers can take place both in the aligned ecology and outside of it, in various constellations of personal, shared, and available tools. We have identified 3 overall patterns for how co-writers manage the writing of a common text across these overlapping ecologies. In the collaborative home pattern, co-writers write within an online platform where text is persisted and synchronized between devices. In the handover pattern, co-writers decide on a common file format and exchange files via communication media such as email. And in the repository pattern, co-writers decide on a common service for storing and synchronizing the document between devices. These patterns take place through co-writers switching between the tools they use. We've categorized the different motivations for transitioning from one tool to another that participants describe to us. We've identified 4 kinds of transitions. Functional transitions are motivated by a need for different, better, or more familiar features. For example, temporarily moving from Google Docs to Microsoft Word to use the spell checker. Aesthetics and user experience transitions have to do with things like comfort, distractions, and various stimuli. An example is writing in Notepad because a more drafty look can alleviate writer's block. Another example is transitioning to escape distractions, for example in real-time collaborative editing environments, where co-writers editing can make text jump up and down. Personal space transitions occur when co-writers seek solitude in order to better focus or to be in control of when others provide feedback to them. Another reason for personal space transitions is concerns about how one appears to collaborators. Finally, communication transitions can be motivated by the more or less urgent need to track down a co-writer, which can sometimes turn into a treasure hunt across collaboration tools and dedicated communication applications. Communication transitions also happen when the usual channel does not satisfy particular needs in the communication, such as persistence or transience of communication. I have a couple of concrete examples to show you before I describe some of the challenges that result from this. In this first example, a co-writer is describing how real-time collaborative editing of LaTeX documents can result in a bad user experience, since one person's edits can cause compilation errors for collaborators. This motivates him to do particularly tricky work in a separate editor. He says, for instance, making figures that always breaks things. I sometimes use this online table generator and get the table set up outside, and then I paste it into LaTeX when I know that it can compile. This is the second example, where a co-writer is describing the difficulty of communicating which part of the text he would like collaborators to pay attention to while they're communicating remotely. He says, but where it gets difficult is when you need to refer directly to something in the text. Then you make a comment in Google Docs, then you go into Messenger and say, could you go and check this comment? A number of challenges result directly from co-writers' need to transition between multiple applications in their ecologies. I'll outline a few of them before finishing up. First of all, moving between document types results in missing or changed formatting, layout, and structure. For example, participants describe transferring the text from a Google document into a LaTeX file and having to redo everything from text formatting to references. Knowing which version is the most up-to-date is another issue that several participants describe struggling with. This is, for instance, difficult when one co-writer is working on content in one application, while their co-writer is adding references or fixing the layout in another. Finally, participants describe losing sense of progress and of who is working on what. For example, when a co-writer has retreated to a local text editing tool in order to focus, other co-writers are unable to react and adapt their work to how the co-writer's part of the writing is progressing. To sum up, collaborative writing takes place across co-writers' individual and overlapping artifact ecologies. They apply certain strategies or patterns for structuring the collaboration, for example by handing files over or keeping a shared repository. Accomplishing this involves many transitions between the tools and co-writers' ecologies with a number of different motivations. And while this helps co-writers accomplish their work, it also presents them with a number of challenges that affect their experience of the writing process and what they need to spend their time on during writing. This includes both practical aspects, such as transferring formatting and structure, and more coordinative aspects of the work. As I mentioned, this was only a partial presentation of our findings, and I encourage you to have a look at our paper to learn more about the role played by the text itself in the writing. Thank you very much for your attention.